Hi team, and welcome to episode 14 of the Health is Wealth podcast. And on this episode, we've got our amazing previous client, Sam Knowles. Sam Knowles has agreed to join us today. Sam worked with us for 12 months at evidence-based coaching. He's since been gone for 5 months. Sam, introduce yourself, please.
Well, Craig, it's absolutely fantastic to be talking to you. Coming across you and evidence-based coaching and your coaches has fundamentally changed the way that I kind of live my life. I'm a data storyteller, so I help companies, all sorts of companies, make smarter use of data. And I'm very much into data and evidence. And so I have to say, I was an absolute sucker for the name of your business. It really, really turned my head. And it didn't disappoint throughout the time that we had together.
Excellent, excellent. And Sam, it's been absolutely amazing to watch your journey over the last 12 months. And I really want to bring you on because I just feel that it's going to help inspire others. You know, being a business owner, being very busy as an executive, and I just was hoping it'll inspire and motivate other executives, you know, around the globe, especially seeing how much progress you've made. So we obviously, you know, we work with a lot of people, Sam, and a lot of people are quite, you know, that they're not sure because of how busy they are. And how have you managed to fit this into your lifestyle then, Sam, being as busy as you are? Because I recall last year, the amount of times you were traveling was insane.
Yeah, I was concerned about that, and I mean, I guess the fundamental answer to your question is I prioritized my kind of health over really over everything else, but at the same time didn't want to be giving up on the travel or the opportunities. Last year, in the year that I was with you, I traveled more than I've traveled, I don't know, for about 15 years. And that was a crazy time 15 years ago. I had a trip to China, Japan, 4 trips to the States, 7 in Europe. And to begin with, I was concerned that, you know, I was going to be away from my home gym or from where I run, or I wasn't going to be able to prep food. It was going to be harder to find time to meditate or to journal. All of these different contributory things that I've folded into my life. And then I just realized that, you know, most decent hotels for traveling execs do have gyms. When I went to China, to Shanghai last year, the gym is the biggest and best equipped gym I have ever been in. It had 100. It had 100 running machines, and then you can just imagine how many weights and cross trainers and the rest of it had. Just and all of it brand spanking new equipment. And so, you know, I have criteria when I'm traveling. I want the hotel to be, you know, relatively easy to get to from both the client's base and from the airports. But the number 2 criterion, above restaurant or whatever else it might have, or district, the number 2 is what kind of gyms it got. And I've stayed in some amazing places. So it's about prioritizing it. It's also about, I think, fitting a busy work life around all of these new commitments, because I'm in the gym 3 or 4 times a week. I'm running to and from that gym, which is about half hour there and back combined, spending about an hour in there. I've always been an early riser, so I've got that on my that's an advantage. And so this morning, day we're recording, I left the front door at 6:15. I was in the gym at 6:30. I was home and ready for the day and for my first meeting at 8:00. Only just, but you know, having put that time in, I'm clear, I'm focused. I can be much more value to the clients because I've prioritized that health and well-being. I don't fall asleep on the sofa anymore in the evening. Those kind of things. But by putting in more energy, by putting in more effort, by eating more sensibly, protein-heavy diet and so on, less carb, much less alcohol. I wasn't a heavy drinker, but it's a kind of 2, 3, 4 glasses of wine a week now, and it might have been that on occasional nights. So it's about priority and it's about capitalizing on the time. But you put that effort in and you get more energy out. You know, you expend the energy, but you get more energy. It's like a
Yeah, of
flywheel.
course. Yeah. 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 And how did you feel before starting with as evidence-based coaching then, Sam?
Well, in May of 2024, no, May of 2023, I did a private healthcare health check. Uh, my wife, who's also my business partner, and I we're fortunate enough that our business can provide us with health insurance. And we got an offer to do a private health check. And we went along and we thought, oh, this will be good. You know, we'll just find out that we're doing fine. And I'd been on at the time. I'd been on a low dose of blood pressure medication for about 4 or 5 years, about 3 or 4 years. I'd noticed that I wasn't feeling good after a particularly stressful business relationship went wrong, and the doctor said, "Oh, you've got high blood pressure." And I've always known that I've had white coat syndrome. So if you take my blood pressure and you've got a white coat on, it's going to be high.
Yeah.
But when I was in this health check, you know, I was weighed and I weighed in at 100.7 kilos, and I was quite surprised to see that it was that because I wasn't weighing myself every day. And he took my blood pressure and he said, "I'm afraid I can't let you do the VO2 max exercise because our insurance doesn't allow people with a blood pressure reading that you've got." It wasn't
Yeah. Yeah.
it wasn't it wasn't catastrophic, but it was well above recommended levels. And so and I've got a bunch of mates, a couple of whom are doctors, and we're in our 50s, and one of them always refers to the mid 50s to the mid 60s as being sniper's alley. You know, all those bad behaviors that you've built up over the previous decades, if you don't do something about it, they're going to come back and haunt you. And I can't remember what it was that it was probably on LinkedIn because it's the only social channel that I'm in. And it was probably because either people I knew were commenting or liking on content that you were sharing. And as I say, I was an absolute sucker for the name, evidence-based coaching. I'm not going to take that at face value. We had a couple of conversations before we started, but that application, you know, as they used to say in the old Zanussi ads, the appliance of science, your
Yeah.
application of evidence to, it's not just about calories in, calories out. It's not as simple as that. It's a
No,
lot
it
more
isn't. No.
complicated than that. And actually, at the time, I'd had the health check that had kind of not gone as swimmingly as I'd wanted. I weighed more definitely than I wanted to. There were some pictures taken on a summer holiday, and I was thinking, who's that? Who's that? You know, barrel-chested, barrel-bellied guy. You know. I mean,
The
I know
pictures
you know.
never lie, do they?
Well, absolutely, and I know that you quite openly will quite often post pictures of yourself before you went on your journey,
Yeah.
um, and so the stars aligned, the planets aligned, and it turns out that I respond really well to being told what to do. So if I'm told to be in calorie deficit for 4 months, it will gradually come back up. If I'm told, we are the experts, we've got your best interest at heart, I respond very well to that. And yeah, I think it took about, I mean, I've shed, I'm now 23 kilos because obviously I weigh myself and my food every day. You've got me into
Every
some
day.
very
Yeah.
good habits, Greg, very
That's
good
good.
habits.
That's good.
I now know that today I'm 23 kilos less than I was. And if I go up, then I know how to get myself back down again. And as you say, it's just become ingrained. I sing a silly little song every time I leave my front door I won't sing it for you, don't worry, I won't ruin the podcast.
No, I
But
don't mind me.
but I sing a silly little song that I get to go to the gym. Not that I have to go to the gym. You know,
100.
I lay my trainers out the night before. My kit's ready for me. I'm up at 5:40. I'm out the door at 6:15, and I just sing this silly little song, and it makes me smile every time. And I might not want to go there. It was freezing cold this morning. It might be raining. I might get drenched on the way down, but you know, it doesn't matter. You know, I'd take another pair of shorts with me and a t-shirt. So I've just got into some habits that's the way I do things now.
Brilliant. Love it. Well done, Sam. And So, Sam, how would you explain to us and everyone how you feel now compared to before you started? Can you
I've got
feel any
more.
difference
Yeah, yeah,
apart from
yeah.
being lighter?
Yeah, there's lighter. There's definitely lighter. There's definitely that. All my clothes are new, um, with the
I remember
exception
the
of a few
suits. I
things. Yeah.
remember the suits.
Well, a very good friend of mine who'd coached me not in health and fitness, but who coached me as a business coach. When I'd lost my weight and got to my target weight and had kind of kept that for a bit, he said, "What you need to do now is to go and get yourself a suit made." And I might be an exec. I might work with
Treat
global corporate.
yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I work with global corporates, but most people in global corporates these days wear kind of chinos or jeans, so there's not much of a suit culture around anymore. But he said, I recommend you go and get yourself a suit made. And it wasn't a totally bespoke suit. It wasn't ruinous, but it was, I got to choose a lot about it. And that's very good. And I was speaking at a conference last week. It was an advertising industry conference. It wasn't a particularly smart event. Most speakers were smartish, but there weren't many suits around. But I got to wear my suit with its peacock lining. I got to do that, and it made me feel $1 million because it was made
Brilliant.
for me. It
Yeah,
fits like a glove. So I feel lighter. Obviously, I like the fact that clothes aren't sort of, to show my age, sort of Demis Roussos tense. They're
yeah.
not. But that's not what my clothes are like now. I like the fact that clothes fit. Um, I, I was. It was quite interesting. Um, but going back to this sniper's alley comment, when you lose a lot of weight in your 50s, people are quite often reluctant to ask what you're doing or to comment on it. Some people are, I have found, because there's a perfect possibility that you might be ill. There's a perfect possibility that this might be as a
I was
result
in
of.
exactly the same position at the weekend when I seen me brother's wife, and I hadn't seen her for a couple of months, and I seen she'd lost a lot of weight, and I was quite. I thought, do I say anything? Like, because as you know, Sam, when you lose weight, you get proud of yourself, and when it motivates you when people start noticing. But it's a different motivation compared to when you've lost weight, if with an illness or something like that, But yeah, anyway.
I mean, to begin with, particularly because I lost the bulk of those 20 kilos in about what 4.5 months, uh,
Hmm.
4.5 months. And to begin with, a lot of people were commenting, but then there were lots of people I hadn't, I didn't see everybody all the time. A big old network and kind of family and friends and so on. Um, and at about 8 or 9 months, when I was seeing quite a lot of people and people weren't commenting, even people I hadn't seen before. I didn't resent it, but I thought, why? I'm just sort of slightly surprised. And I found, and maybe this is a British thing, but I found that women were much more likely to my women friends and relatives were much more likely to say, "Oh, you look good. What have you been up to?" And
Yeah.
the men who themselves might be a bit kind of podgier, where I had been for many, many, many years, or weren't prioritizing their health and fitness, they'd often be the ones that would remain silent. And listen, I don't want to impose my regime on anybody else. I would strongly recommend, if they're in my kind of situation, that they talk to you guys. But I don't want to impose it on anybody else. And I've got over myself now. And if people do say something, it's who I am. It's that's I've my if you like, my physical reality has caught up with my false image of myself that I had before. So I probably thought that I looked like I do now, before, but just with a little bit more podgy around the sides. I kind of I catch a glimpse of myself and I say, oh yeah, that's who I am. Um, but yeah, more energy too. I mean, there used to be no point taking me to the cinema or the theatre because I just fall asleep. Um,
Yeah.
a gig, I'd want to sit down because my back was hurting.
Mm.
I was at a gig
And
last
the
Saturday.
back pain, all that's gone now, Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I had a bad back for in my hungry years, if we'll call them that, on and off. And I've gained weight and lost weight and gained weight and done Atkins and keto and all of these other unsustainable or at least for me, unsustainable approaches. Um, and the back's kind of come and gone. But I was at a gig last Saturday. I've got one this Saturday. I've got one Saturday afterwards. And you know, I'll probably be dancing my little socks off all night for each one of those. So yeah, I've got more energy. I expend vastly more energy. I eat a lot more than I used to. My caloric load is a lot higher than it used to be. I mean, maybe not on Christmas Day or on when the cheese board
Yeah, of
comes out,
course.
but day by day, I eat more because and the one thing I'd never done in my life was go to a gym. I've never really done that. And I'd never really understood the
Um,
importance of building and sustaining muscle mass. And I'm not muscly, but you know what I've got, the flesh I've got now has is
you look
muscles
amazing.
rather than fat.
Yeah.
Um,
And with the gym, would you say that was a confidence thing then, Sam, or was it just not on your priority list?
it definitely wasn't on my priority list. The last gym that I'd been to seriously, I used to live in Fulham, southwest London, and there was a gym owned by, and again this will date me, gym owned by two very nice brothers called the Fairbrass brothers, who were in a band in the '90s called Right Said Fred, and
I
it was the
remember.
yeah.
Right, said Fred, yeah.
I'm too sexy for my shirt
Yeah.
was their hit, and they owned and ran this gym, and they were lovely. And a lot of the people that went there were very gym snobby, and if you were, as I was, overweight, they wouldn't move off to give you a go. And so
All
so
right, yeah, yeah.
that and I didn't like that. I mean, now I just don't notice people in the gym. I mean, I go to the same kind of local authority gym in my town in Sussex. It's well equipped. It's big. It's just had a refurb. It's got about enough kit so that you're never really waiting very much. But you know, you learn to adapt. If if the 2 year 13 boys who seem to live in our new gym now are on the leg stretching machines, they'll go and do something else, and they
Yeah.
might be off it by the time I want to go home. But you just learn to be flexible. You know, I think I used to think I've got to do them in this order. You know, Craig and the coaches and Gary have told me to do things in this, so I've got.
I still do. I'm the same. I always try and do it in the order of, I don't know, creature of habits, I suppose, you know.
Yeah,
But yeah, yeah.
yeah, but you've got to be flexible. You've got to be flexible when you travel. You've got to be flexible when you're eating out. You don't want to insult people who've cooked for you. Um, and I know, but I always know that if I have a a big steak and half a bottle of wine and a bit of cheese, then I will compensate for that. I will the fact of weighing, the fact of recording food, and you know I've got into that habit now. The fact of recording food every meal, it doesn't take long. You add recipes, it takes 2 minutes a day to record your food. It's but
Yeah.
the
And it becomes a
benefit
habit, doesn't
it
it?
does.
It becomes
It does.
ingrained in you to, not obviously, Sam, like seeing your progress, but most importantly, sustaining it. It makes you want to do it, doesn't it? Because you don't want to go back over
Well, I mean,
to where you were.
you're quite right. In the past, it is, I would have to say, I have put my clothes in the attic in a suitcase when they've been too big for me. Now,
For next
they,
year.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. Now they they've been, you know, those that were worth selling have been sold secondhand, and those that some others have been given to charity shops, and some others have gone to landfill, probably,
Mm. Yeah.
or to recycling. But they don't exist anymore. I haven't got drawers full of size 38 jeans. I've got drawers full of size 31, 32 jeans, and
Amazing.
it still surprises me. You know, still surprises me when I look at them. Like, oh, I wonder whose those are. Are these my sons? Well, whose are these?
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. And so, Sam, what would you say you've enjoyed most about? What aspects would you say you've enjoyed most about the coaching side then?
I think it's a kind of it's a whole. It's got lots of different bits to it. So I didn't journal before. I didn't commit to meditation. And I'm not, I'm in the foothills of meditation, but because because the apps will count it for you. I can tell you that I'm on an 82-day streak with Headspace, and it's not competitive or competitive with myself. But if I don't meditate, usually after a shower, after the gym or running, the day doesn't feel quite right. I'll always journal and reflect, and that might be a gratitude thing. Um, I don't resent any of it. I mean, it was when I mentioned that silly little song, I get to go to the gym. Um, that that reframing that you and the coaches encourage is so important. I am lucky enough. I am, I'm not wealthy, but I'm wealthy enough to be able to carve out the time and to afford a gym membership that I can, to get up early, to go to the gym. I think that's lucky. I never, ever, ever think I have to go to the gym. I never think, even if I've
Yeah.
got a bit of a sniffle, or it's pouring with rain, or it's freezing, or I've got aches and pains. If I've got aches and pains, I was saying before we started recording, if I've got a slightly sore back from overexertions, I won't do Russian twists. But that doesn't mean that I can't row or whatever. I think it's the whole, which is very much more than the sum of the parts. I never resent logging my food. I mean, I think I hope my family and friends would agree with me. I think I'm quite subtle about it. I don't sort of sit
Mm.
there kind of scrolling through, oh,
Yeah.
how much, because I don't want to impose that on them, but because it takes only a couple of minutes, and because generally you can remember what you've eaten by the end of the day. um, uh, all elements. I like ticking things off. I like having. Yeah, I think. I've always thought that your app is great. Not least because of the flexibility in terms of the reps and the weights when you're doing gym work or whatever it might be. But the fact that you tick things off, and the fact that it will gently remind you. At 10 o'clock in the morning you're going to get a little say, "Hi, don't forget 10,000 steps, 3 liters of water." Actually, the water is another thing. The water is another thing. I always used to maintain, I'll drink if I'm thirsty enough. And it's not that we forget to drink. I know that, if I really needed water and I was going to get ill as a result, but actually, I thought there's no way I could drink 3 liters, let alone 2 liters. I'm usually drinking 3.5 liters of water a day. I'm not going to increase it, but there are so many different things that I do now that I didn't do 18 months ago, and they all contribute to the whole, to the. Hopefully, I'm not mad enough to think that I've escaped Sniper's Alley. I've still got, several years to go. But hopefully I've put myself in the best possible situation.
Brilliant. Love it. That's great, Sam. Well done. And would you say there's any areas that you found really challenging then, Sam, where you struggled?
Um, I never had any prolonged plateaus of weight, I kind of had ups and downs, but never had any long plateaus. When I started, I had a meniscus injury in my knee. So one of the reasons for the weight gain was that I hadn't been running for about 4 or 5 months. I'd slipped on a wet pavement. As my physio described it, the meniscus came out between the bones. They slammed down on top of it and then and bruised it or damaged it. Fortunately, not permanent damage. And so what was that meant that I needed to be careful, certainly on that leg, on the weights that I was putting on that leg. I couldn't run on it, but getting you guys in contact with my physio, to design to because my physio was treating me regularly, but getting you guys to talk to one another, as it almost not quite behind my back, but it was like, you guys,
Yeah,
this is the
it's
program.
something we do, Sam. Yeah,
Oh, it
yeah,
was
of
great.
course.
That was great. So there was, I mean, and I had that injury from October 23 when I started until February 24, and then I just slowly started running. Just 1, 2K.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm running I mean, it's not a particularly long race. I tend to run, when I run, I tend to run between about 5 and 8K. I'm doing an 11K run around a vineyard down here in Sussex in April, up and downhill. I've bought my first pair of off-road running shoes. So I can now run year round in the muddy fields, which is great.
Great.
Um, but I didn't. I tell you, sometimes there was the struggle with the injury and accommodating the injury and making sure that I could do the right and enough, particularly of the resistance work, the weights work. Absolutely that. The other thing was when I went from calorie deficit into not excess, but way up the other side.
Maintenance,
Sometimes,
yeah.
yeah, sometimes I found it difficult to get there. It's like, oh God, I've got to have another pot of protein yogurt. I need to have another chicken breast. Sometimes I
Yeah.
found that a bit oppressive. I've recently shaved about 150 calories off, but I'm still eating, 350, 400 more than I was, because I'm so active. I'm so active. I live with I've got a slight apparently, according to my consultant, everyone over the age of 45 has arthritis in their shoulders. You just don't usually feel it. I've got
Yeah.
that, and I've also got a detached tendon on this shoulder, which means
Right.
I can't do that. I mean, I'm doing that now with no weight, and I can feel it. So I've got long term bursitis rotator cuff injury,
Right. Yeah.
and the couple of steroid injections. One worked and then spectacularly came undone. Second one didn't work. Can't carry on doing steroid injections. You weaken the tendons. The option was surgery with a 50% chance of success and 6 weeks doing nothing. That I'm not anywhere
No.
near
Yeah.
ready to go. So living with short-term injuries or long-term conditions. You just accommodate around it.
Yeah, but I've that type of challenge of not being able to eat enough is not a bad challenge. I'm sure quite a few people would like that, Sam. Excellent. So, Sam, what goals are you working on now then? What are you working on at the moment? What is your overall goal? Is it to lose more weight, body fat? Is it to gain some muscle? Is it just to give you examples? Or is it to just maintain, live a healthy life and improve other areas like your VO2 max and things?
Yeah, I mean, I've been I don't particularly want to add muscle mass. I don't particularly want to I don't really want to lose any weight. I mean, today 77.7. If I'd have said that 18 months ago, I'd have laughed at myself. And I've been within 1.5 kilos either side or a kilo and a quarter either side for more than a year now. So I think I know how to keep that going. I've got the motivation to go to the gym to run. I like doing kind of events from time to time. Just kind of maintaining the motivation, and I know that maintaining the motivation can be difficult. I know that when you look at the weight coming down, if that's going the right direction for you, or maybe it's going that direction, but when you see the weight coming down, that's really motivating. It's sort of leaps and bounds,
Yeah.
and then it's just like this. It's just like a little sort of tracer. But I don't. I mean, I think I've lost enough weight. So I want to be able to maintain that. I want to be able to. I clearly want to maintain the exercise and the gym work, because I've heard people say, you really, when you get into 50s, you really, you start losing muscle mass. You really need to do something and I'm inspired. The when you have the same regime in a gym, you see the same people day after day after day, and I'm inspired to see people in their 60s, 70s, even in their 80s. Some of whom I know are on prescription, but also some that I was talking to a guy yesterday morning. And it was a cold morning, And he said, "Oh, it's a cold morning." I said, "Yeah, it is." He said, "I've been coming here 27 years. I don't think I'm any fitter than I was when I came in, but I've been here every morning for 27 years." And I just thought, well, I'd quite like to be saying that to somebody in 27 years' time. I was impressed. So I mean, there's no obvious goal. I mean, one thing that I had that was a really as a stretch target, and I mentioned blood pressure at the beginning, but one of the things I had really as a stretch target was, is it possible? I was on a low dose of a low potency blood pressure med, but is it possible that if there is 20 plus kilos less strain on my body, that I'll be able to come off? And I experimented last summer when I last August 24, and there were some other stresses around that meant it didn't seem to work. But very recently, in the last month and a half, I've come off with doctor support. I've come off blood pressure meds altogether, and because I'm into the evidence and the evidence-based approach, was about 115 over 72 yesterday morning, which I think,
Amazing.
you know,
What an achievement as well, Sam, because it's not easy to get off the blood pressure meds, is it? You know, for a lot of
it's
people.
It's not, and I'm perfectly well aware, being this person with white coat syndrome, and but I'm perfectly well aware that maybe I am sensitive to blood pressure long term, and maybe one day I'll have to go back on them. But to have been able to have done that, that's kind of beyond my wildest dreams. I'm, as an evidence-based kind of guy, I check it every week, certainly for the next 3 months or so, to make sure that it's not going creeping back up. Um, but that would be good because, as we get older in a medicalized society, there are going to be more things that there will be drugs for. I have no doubt. But to have been able to effectively turn back the clock 5 years and to get rid of that because I've lost the weight and have got fitter, that's amazing.
Amazing achievement, Sam. You've done absolutely superb, and obviously all your hard work, and Sam, what advice would you give yourself looking back to before you started the program, or maybe it's to other executives that are sitting on the fence and wondering when or whether or how to start their own journey?
I mean, I would say don't even give it another moment's thought. There is a way to get to where you want to get to. It may be and there are lots of ways that you can get to this goal, but it requires dedication. It requires commitment. You have to really, really want to do it. I was a smoker for how long? I was a smoker for probably better part of more than 20 years, from my teens to my mid 30s, and I sort of flirted with giving up, and then when I gave up, I decided I was going to give up, and I gave up. I mean, you need to embrace your inner stubborn nature. I think I'm quite stubborn. I don't mean I sort of dig my heels in and don't want to do something. I mean that I'm good at, once I've decided to do something and I've got the evidence, but also the support networks and so on. Because my family were very, very, very supportive. They weren't hiding chocolate bars from me. There
That's
was
good.
none of
That's
that. But
yeah.
but really supportive, really supportive. When your son says, I'm so proud of what you've achieved, kind of
Yeah,
chokes you up, really
of
chokes
course
you
it
up.
does.
And you know what? He's 21. We get to go to the gym together, and he corrects my bad form for every single exercise that I do, which I absolutely adore. I
Brilliant.
absolutely adore that. But the thought of 5 years ago, me and him going to the gym together, and he's much stronger than me. Of course he is. He's 21, and he's got a different body form. He's got my wife's side of the family body form rather than my side of the family. But yeah, I mean, I would just say shop around, find people, find coaches who you trust, who've got a track record of achieving this and achieving this sustainably. I mean, I wasn't the biggest participant or contributor in the community. I'm a sort of my wife describes me as an antisocial extrovert. So by that, she means that I quite like my own company. As I mean, I love being in a room with 100 people I don't know. I'm perfectly confident with that. But I can also spend 3 days with my head deep in the data, working away. So I wasn't the biggest contributor, but I have to say I did find the Slack community to be really motivating, and I'm not part of it anymore. But I there were some challenges that I thought, yeah, these are really, some of them I just thought were insane and beyond me. I couldn't. Fortunately, my physios told me I can't do burpees, so I couldn't join in a burpees challenge. But I think I might even have won the. I think I might even have got 131,000 steps in a week and
You
won the Mount
did.
Everest.
You
Yeah,
did. You won the Mount
you,
Everest challenge. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but actually, and sometimes, I've worked in British companies, Anglo-American companies, American companies. Sometimes, I mean, I'm very used to the kind of the pile-on messages, but the levels of genuine support that you are enabled to engender in the community are admirable. And I didn't. I know you had that trip to Boston last November. I'm sure you'll be doing other trips too, where you kind of physically get together. But the kind of it's really, we've all got your back. Everybody has your
Yeah.
back, and that's really that's special sauce. It takes something to create that, and I've got huge respect that you've done that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sam. And Sam, I just want to say thanks for coming on today. And it's been amazing. It's been a great giving us the opportunity to help you, to work with you. It's been a pleasure working with you, Sam. I just want to say thank you very much. Would you like to finish off with anything, Sam? Or
I just want to say kind of, thank you to you and to the coaches, and you've helped me, at least, if not get out the other side, because I'm not that old, but you've certainly helped me to navigate Sniper's Alley. I mean, I talk about my son. I mean, my dad was much older than me. He was more than 20 years older than me when he had me, at the end of many marriages, many children. And he died in the Easter, or just after the Easter holidays of my second or third years at university. And I didn't think that I was at risk of dying, but one of my motivations was that, I wasn't gonna that wasn't gonna happen to me. That
no,
definitely wasn't gonna happen to me. And well, my son's still got 3 months left at university, so I'll have to keep on going to the gym.
I'm sure you will. Sam, thank you very much, buddy. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and thank you for your time.
Thanks. Great to see you again, Craig.